pack is back. The Eagles couldn't avoid the sack. The Bucks looked bad. Lions fans were sad. And injuries, there was no lack. Welcome to the Mish. All right. As always, we got a beer. I'm changing it up because it's nighttime, so I'm gonna go natter days. Doesn't really mean anything, but well, football's back, everyone. And the injuries thing, it's pretty real because I had Blake Darwin and now he's gone for the season, so that's super. All right, first things first, just a little bit of business. So far, I've gotten payments from Derek, Bruce, and T-Corn. It's $15, as I've mentioned before, and I've got the Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle. I've mentioned it before, but the Venmo is at Joey-Let, capital J and L. PayPal is Joey-Let, all one word. And then Zelle is just my phone number, 920-615-5275. All right, so transactions. There was a good amount of transactions, but I'm not doing those anymore. Being covered, it would take a while. Heck, if I were just to do Fiala's transactions, it would probably take like 15 minutes. So there were two trades though. They both involved Fiala and they both involved Rams running backs. First up, Fiala traded Malcolm Brown to Derek for Cam Akers. At the time of the trade, it appeared like Fiala won the trade because Cam Akers is the rookie and he's looking like he could possibly take over. But after the first week, it seemed like Derek won because Malcolm Brown really did well. So I guess we'll see what week 2 will bring and see how things balance out after that. Secondly, Fiala traded Darrell Henderson to Lincoln for Lev Bell. For the next 3 weeks, Lev Bell will be on IR, so for the time being, it will be favoring Lincoln. However, after 3 weeks, Lev Bell will be eligible to return from the IR, but it's a bit tougher to know for sure. If he can come back to perform, Lev Bell that is, and produce, as he did back in his Pittsburgh days, that's a pretty clear win for Fiala on that trade. But Rams backfield could look very different from now until 3 weeks from now, and so Henderson could have a bigger role than he did week 1, but so yeah, I guess only time will tell for this trade, but it'll probably favor Fiala if I had to guess. So game recaps, we'll just start off with me versus Brian. This one, it was one of the closest, actually I think it was the closest matchup of the week. Had a lot of solid players playing in those games. Josh Jacobs went off for about 35 points. Clyde, the rookie, amazed. Rodgers freaking went off as well. In the end, I edged out a victory over Brian, 120.68 to 114.86. Next up, we got Michael versus State Farm. And that was a good one to watch for half of the people involved. I mean, nothing really went right for Michael. Kittle got injured. Michael Thomas got injured. It just wasn't that great. And then on the other hand, we got State Farm's team, which, I mean, Devontae Adams, 40 points. Lamar Jackson, 26 points. David Johnson, almost 20 points. So, I mean, when you guys got guys going off like that, it's tough to handle that. So State Farm won 151.9 to 77.42. Spoiler here, State Farm scored the most points out of anybody this week. And so, as you remember from last year, if you were in the league, person who scores the most points every week is awarded one beer, a la me. So congratulations, State Farm. You've got a beer coming to you. Next up, we've got Caleb versus Bruce. This one was actually pretty close too, and this one was a heartbreaker, folks, because Caleb didn't realize that Kenny Galladay was not playing, and so he kept him in his lineup, who ended up, obviously, if he wasn't playing, he scored 0 points. He had some pretty solid production. Dalvin Cook, 20 points. You got Julian, 13. You had a lot of people around that, but no one really broke out per se. I guess Dalvin Cook, 20 points, that's pretty good. But yeah, Galladay didn't play, and then Godwin, he's currently in concussion protocol, so hopefully he'll play for you next week. Otherwise, you've got to make some pivots at wide receiver. Bruce, on the other hand, he had Josh Allen with 26. Tyreek had a measly 15.6, expecting more from him, but I'm sure it'll come. Amari Cooper, 18. In the end, this one was also very close. Bruce just barely beat Caleb, 114.68 to 108.2, so every point matters. All right, next up, we've got T-Corn versus Sam. This one was a bit more high-scoring. on one side than the previous matchup. We had some pretty solid performances. Chris Carson went off for 20, almost 25. McCaffrey, almost 30, just casual McCaffrey. TJ got 16. And then on Sam's side, you have, Derrick Henry with 16. Dak, he got 17. So not great numbers, but not the worst this week. However, it was not enough. T-Corn beat Sam 127.16 to 94.64. So next, we've got Fiala versus Adam. This one was another slugfest in terms of someone scoring a lot of points. Spoiler alert, Fiala won pretty big by not as big as other matchups, but Hopkins went off for nearly 30. Calvin Ridley got over 30. Kyler got almost 30. When you got three guys scoring 90 points, it's tough to beat that. Adam didn't do too bad. Aaron Jones got 16. Tyler Lockett got 17. But other than that, not the greatest. Your defense got negative points, so that's never good. This one, Fiala won 150.5 to 100.28. Macy versus Colin. This one, again, like the previous matchup, not that close. A bit closer, but not too much to matter. Macy had Julio 24, Mostert 25, Stephon 16, Mark Andrews 22, and then on Colin's side, Zeke went off for 27, Deshaun got 21, Kelsey 17, so he did get some good production, Colin did, but like the previous matchup wasn't enough. Macy beat Colin 145.5 to 110.82, and that brings us to the last game, where it's Lincoln versus Derek. This one was interesting, but interesting in a good way for Derek, that is. Tom Brady got 21 with a rushing touchdown somehow. Kamara had 23. Malcolm Brown, the guy you just got, 26, so there we go. Thielen went off for 31, almost 29, but he got those 2 points in the end. And then you got Lincoln. Pat Mahomes did all right, 20 points, not Pat Mahomes quality, but DK got 19 and a half. And other than that, your Ravens defense got 18. But other than that, not the greatest. So in the end, Derek beat Lincoln 143.26 to 96.74. So my week 1 record in all was 5-2, which brings my total season record to 5-2. All right, now we are into the power rankings. In 14th place, Michael, 14. You lost pretty badly to State. You scored the least amount of points on the week, and you would play the guy who scored the most amount of points on the week, so not the best start for you. But to be fair, you did lose Kittle, and I guess, the injury to Michael Thomas happened towards the end of the game, so it wasn't a huge impact, but again, he still didn't look that great, only, scored a little bit of points. He ended up scoring 4.7 points for you, so not the greatest output from Michael Thomas. And now you could be losing him for a couple weeks. So let's hope you bounce back this week. You play Brian. He's got a solid team. I beat him, but just barely. So you've got that to look forward to. All right, number 13, we've got Caleb. You produced pretty well, but you do have some injuries gonna have to worry about, which is part of the reason why you're a bit low. You got Galladay that's injured, could still be, and then Godwin, who is on concussion protocol as of Wednesday, which, we'll see if he plays, but, you don't usually want guys playing with concussions. So, you're facing Lincoln this week, which he also didn't produce very well. So, Caleb at 13. Number 12, speak of the devil, we got Lincoln. You didn't do all that great yourself. Not breaking 100, but, sometimes stuff like that happens. As I just mentioned, you're playing Caleb this week, so it's going to be, I feel like, kind of a low-scoring matchup, but we'll see if you can pull one out. Number 11, Sam. You lost to T-Corn, and again, someone else who didn't score over 100 points, but, T-Corn's a pretty tough opponent. He scored 127, so you'd have had to score, around 130 points to beat him, which you weren't really near that, so hopefully not, you're going to do that because you're playing me this upcoming week, so I hope you could score, if you want to score 50, that's cool, but for your sake, hopefully you do better. Number 10, we've got Colin. You lost to Macy. You broke 100, but, by 10 points or so, as I mentioned before. You had some all right output, but you're looking for better numbers than that. You do have James Conner with some injury issues, Jarvis injury issues, and right now A.J. Brown is also questionable, so hopefully you can have those guys come back and performing for you. But you're playing Adam this week, which Adam, obviously I haven't said his name yet, so I've got him ranked a bit higher than you, but we'll get there when we get there.
We get there when we get there!
Next, we've got Macy. You beat Colin. Obviously, you've got Julio, who did pretty well, and he's, Julio Jones, so a couple guys I think broke out who aren't necessarily going to perform that well every week, but, you could get some production out of them still, so... Upcoming, you have State Farm, so he put up a lot of points last week, so hopefully you can get some good numbers and get yourself second dub of the season. Number 8, we've got Derek. I don't remember if I put you in the top 10 at all last year, but you're here now. You put up a solid number. So, just looking at your team, you do have actually a pretty solid roster. I may have underestimated you. Like I said about Macy, she had some players that performed really well this past week that I don't know if they can do it every week, such as Thielen's 31 or Brown's 26. So hopefully for your sake they do. This week you are playing Fiala, who... He's got a pretty solid roster. He put up 150 points, so it's going to be tough to beat people who put that many points up, so hopefully you can get as many points as you can get. Number 7, we've got Adam. You lost to Fiala by about 50 points. Your roster isn't terrible, but as I mentioned before, you do have a bit of issues, so hopefully... no injuries as far as I can tell, well, except for Marlon Mack, torn ACL, so you've got to get him out of there. But other than that, just some guys who want to perform, so hopefully they can perform. You're coming up against Colin this week. You guys scored very close amount of points this past week, so it's pretty much anyone's game. But yeah, make those roster changes. Number 6, we've got Brian. He lost to me, but it was pretty close, and so you do have a pretty solid roster. You've got Aaron Rodgers, so we don't know for sure. Last year didn't do too great, but hopefully this year, I really hope so too, because he's a Packer player. But you got, Rodgers, you got Clyde, and you've got some couple other guys who I think can be pretty good this year, like DJ Moore. Will Fuller could see some pretty good numbers. But yeah, so you've got a solid team. Just didn't get enough this week, past week, but you definitely have the pieces there to be able to compete with those high-scoring matchups. Number 5, we've got Bruce. You beat Caleb. Like I said, just barely, so... could have been a loss. Like I said, you've got a solid roster. You were ranked number 1 last week, so you are down a couple spots because your scores weren't up there like some of the big guys. But this upcoming week, you're playing T-Corn, who he's got a solid team, so it's going to be a bit tough, I think. Number 4, I've got myself. I beat Brian. I really am liking my team. I've got, I think, 3 of the best running backs. I did lose Jarwin, so I did have to find another tight end. Old Greg.
I'm old Greg. Pleased to meet you.
My receivers aren't the greatest, but, hopefully where I lack there, I make up in running backs. Upcoming, I've got Sam. I think he's pretty solid opponent. I'm looking to go 2-0, so... All right, number 3, we've got State Farm. You put up the most points out of anybody, but you did have a lot of really nice breakouts. You had Devontae Adams. He scored 41, which is really good. David Johnson, hopefully he can keep performing for you. Antonio Gibson didn't produce as well as people hoped. You had some guys like Juju. He's questionable right now. He seems like he's always injured, but hopefully you can keep that going. In this upcoming week, you play Macy. Even though she is ranked a couple spots below you, I think it could be close. But Number 2, we've got Fiala. He's got really good receivers. He's got Hopkins and Ridley as your 2 receivers, and you got Kyler, who he could break out this year. Saquon had a pretty down week, less rushing yards than Big Ben, but, it's Saquon. And then your tight end, Noah Fant. But yeah, I think you've got a pretty solid team once you can just get a couple running backs on there. Well, I guess 1, because, we got Saquon, but you could definitely be in the running for the board. This week, you're playing Derek. He scored a lot of points too, so it could be a very big slugfest this week between you two. All right, number 1, we've got T-Corn. You got a dub last week. You got Christian McCaffrey on the team, who is like a freaking monster. He could go off for 40 points whenever he feels like it. And you got a couple receivers. Terry McLaurin, who didn't do super well this week, but he could have a great season. TJ, who had a great first week this week. Last year, he had a great first week in week 1, but then kind of got injured. So other than that, you got a pretty solid roster, so you're definitely in the running. This week, you are playing Bruce. Another pretty solid team. You guys had a pretty good rivalry last year. Close games, high-scoring games, so looking forward to that one. All right, so this week we have our first guest of the year. He's new to the league this year. So everyone, without further ado, I'd like to welcome in Jacob Knackers. All right. Before we begin, here's your beer for winning this week. I know you brought your own.
I did.
But you know, for whatever, it's yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm didn't know about this rule till now.
No?
But I love it. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
All right. So just before we get into the week's matchups, I've got a couple questions. First off, welcome to the league. Do you have any prior fantasy experience?
I do. I'm actually a commissioner myself.
Oh.
I run a league with a bunch of my high school friends. So I do have some commission experience.
All right. How you like in this league?
I mean, I'm loving it. I got a free beer. I'm 1-0, and I basically doubled up Michael in week 1. So
Yeah, it's
kind of feel bad for him. That was
it's a pretty good way to
tragic.
start. Yeah. What kind of message are you trying to send by scoring the most points out of anybody?
Well, I was ranked pretty low on the power rankings coming into the season. I believe it was 8.
Oh yeah,
So-
state 8. Yep. And
Stayed
the
at
grind.
8, so I wanted to prove myself week 1.
Yeah. Yeah. If I rank you low, prove me that I ranked you wrong. And if I rank you in the top half, prove me that I ranked you right. So you
Yeah.
prove me wrong. So. All right. And then anything else you'd like to say about anything?
I'm just happy to be in the league. I'm still getting used to the lingo, some of the nicknames.
Yeah.
Brian, accept that trade, please. I want Melvin Gordon. But other than that, thank you for the beer.
All right. We will be moving on to this week's matchups. We'll first just start off with me versus Sam. I have some key players that I'd like to highlight. Allen Robinson for Sam, and Austin Hooper. Robinson, I guess it's been cleared up recently, but when I put this down here, he was going through a bit of a feud, I guess you could say, with the Bears. Kind of wanted him out, but it seems like he's there to stay. And then Austin Hooper didn't do super well last week for the Browns, so hopefully he can turn it around for them. And then for me, old Greg.
Come on, Greg.
Greg Olson, my new tight end. He did pretty well this past week. Hoping he can do that again for a team that likes the tight end. And then Miles Sanders, who was injured this past week. Hopefully he can play for me.
Hopefully he can play for me.
I mean, if not,
That'd be nice.
I've got good options. I think Jonathan Taylor would take his place, but you know, always looking to get Miles to play. So,
I mean, I even offered him a trade for JT, but he didn't take it.
you know, just kind of looking at the matchups and whatnot. And plus, it's a bit biased by me, but I'm gonna pick myself to win here. Who you got?
I think Sam's going to win.
Oh,
I think your boy Miles, I don't know if he'll get the full touches that you think he's going to get.
yeah.
So he might not produce his high fantasy numbers. And I think Sam's going up against some easy defenses this week where he could eke out a few extra points.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be very close.
The Eagles are playing the Rams, and they have
Yeah,
a pretty good Aaron Donald over there.
yeah, they do.
And you know,
He's decent.
and the Eagles, they, like I said at the top of the show, they just couldn't let Carson Wentz stand up. I guess he got sacked 8 times. So I mean, you know, if they do that for pass plays, you know, they'll probably stuff a lot of runs too. So I mean, you know, if he plays, I'll play him. But if you know,
It is what it is.
yep. All right. Next up, we've got Michael versus Brian. Some key players we got for Brian's team. We've got Aaron Rodgers and Will Fuller. Hopefully for all of us. I guess if you're not a Packers fan, then you don't really care too much. But hopefully Rodgers can keep it up. And then Will Fuller, he produced pretty well. So again, just like Rodgers, hopefully he can keep it going too. And then for Michael, we've got George Kittle, who is kind of dealing with an injury right now. They're saying he's going to play, but you know, you never know. And then Naheem Hines did pretty well this past week, and like Rodgers, and we'll see if he can keep it going. Any thoughts?
I just hope Michael scores points this week. I mean, Devontae had over half his total team's points last week,
Yeah.
but I'm going with Brian. I think Brian's got this one.
Yeah, and Brian, he's my lock pick for this week. I'm locking in Brian. I mean, I was trying hard to try to see if Michael could pull it out here, but I just can't see it.
Especially if Michael Thomas doesn't play.
Yep, him too.
Yeah.
So yeah, look at Michael, hoping the best, but I'm kind of expecting the worst here. All right, next up we've got T-Corn versus Bruce. Key players for Bruce, we've got Allen, probably keep him Allen. No, Josh Allen, that's it, his quarterback. Josh Allen, and then Chris Herndon. Josh Allen performed pretty well last week, and Herndon didn't. So we'll see if Allen can keep it going, if Herndon can get it turned around. And then for T-Corn, we've got Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, and then Terry McLaurin. Danny, he did all right, but hopefully he can do better this week. And then Terry also didn't do that great, so we'll see if he can get it turned around. Very big, strong boy there, so much like his owner, T-Coin, big strong boy. Thoughts on this?
I'm still going to pick T-Corn to win, but I don't count Bruce out.
I never, yeah.
It depends if Josh Allen gets some rushing touchdowns.
And he very well could.
Yeah.
So I'm also going with T-Coin on this one. Next, we've got State, your matchup, versus Macy. Macy, for some key players, Austin Eckler and Tariq Cohen, two running backs who didn't do that great. Eckler, who a lot of people are thinking he could be top 12 this year. Last year he was, I don't know, probably top 12. Definitely top 12, I'd say. Maybe even top 5, was he?
He was pretty good. He caught a lot of passes last year, but I don't think he caught...
No, Tyrod's a different quarterback than Philip. But then for you, you've got Juju and Gibson. Gibson didn't do super well. A lot of people are thinking he could do really well this year. And then Juju, we'll see if he can keep things rolling. Because he did pretty well last week.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I picked you to win. I mean, it's kind of hard to not pick someone who scored the most points in fantasy.
I am worried this week. I think Macy's team is underrated, and I think she has a pretty good roster. So I don't know if I'll win this week, but I'm open. I think it'll be very close.
Next, we've got Fiala versus Derek. Last year, these were 2 teams that missed the playoffs. Actually, 2 of the worst teams last year. I think combined between the 2 of them, there was like 5 or 6 wins. Key players for Fiala, we've got Saquon. He, like I said earlier, he got 9 rushing yards all game, which obviously is not something you want from a running back, especially one of Saquon's caliber. And then Cam Akers, newly acquired from actually your opponent, which is going to be interesting if you play him. If he can get some significant touches, and score some good points. And then for Derek, we've got Adam Thielen, who, like I said, scored 31 points. And Malcolm Brown, who is the other running back that was involved in that trade, who did do very well last week. So we'll see how those 2 Rams running backs do, and then see how those other guys go. As I was going through this, my initial draft was I had Fiala as my lock pick for this week, but then I couldn't really find any upset pick. And so I'm just like, you know what, I'll just change it to Derek, and I have him as my upset pick of the week.
Yeah, I like that upset pick. Hopefully Malcolm Brown goes off, and then Fiala can regret that trade.
That would be great.
That'd be awesome.
Last year we gave Derek a lot of crap for his trades.
I heard about it.
And it'd be really great for him to win one. So I'm actually rooting for you, Derek, so let's get that upset. Next, we've got Adam versus Colin. Some key players for Adam. We've got Evan Ingram, Mike Evans, and Sanders Emmanuel. Evan didn't do super well, but he's a very athletic tight end, very quick tight end. We'll see if he can get the job done this week. For Sanders, Michael Thomas is likely to miss at least this week, maybe a couple. And so that would make Sanders as the default number 1 receiver. Not sure if he's going to be the number 1 target because you still have Cook and Kamara back there. But he could see some significant targets. And then you've got Mike Evans, who, like last year towards the end, is a bit shaken up right now. So we'll see if he can come and play for you. And then for Colin, we've got James Conner, who, I had him for a lot of last year. That injury bug was very frustrating, and it's starting off the year just like he ended it, maybe injured. And then you got Sammy Watkins, who last year he had a big week 1, and then just kind of sucked for the rest of the year until they got to the playoffs, where fantasy points don't matter. So we'll see if it's a repeat of last year, or if Sammy can get turn a new leaf and actually be a quality fantasy performer, because he very well should be. He's fast and he's on the Chiefs. So I'm gonna pick Adam for this one. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go with Colin. That's gonna be my upset.
Yeah.
I think Colin's gonna win that one pretty easily. I don't think Adam's
think?
team's gonna perform.
You don't think?
Nope.
No.
Sorry, Adam.
I mean, any week that could happen anyway. So
Yeah.
it's never out of the question for a team to just shit the bed. So yeah. All right. Now we'll move on to our last matchup. We've got Caleb versus Lincoln. Some key players. For Caleb, we've got Drew Brees, Kenny Galladay, and Chris Godwin. The last two are a bit self-explanatory, so I'll get there when we get there. But Drew Brees, his number one target is likely down for, like I said, a couple weeks. So we'll see how he can do without him. He also didn't do that great this past week. But we'll see if he can turn it around, because Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer. So, and then Galladay and Godwin both kind of on the same boat. Galladay didn't play last week. Hopefully for you, he'll play this week. I think what I saw, he's looking to play this week. And then Chris Godwin, he had the concussion protocol today. So we'll see if he can come out and play this week. But if not, man, your receivers aren't looking that great. And then for Lincoln, you got T.Y. Hilton and Darius Slayton. We'll start with the bad. T.Y. didn't do all that great this past week. He was a pretty good receiver. And he's got Philip Rivers, who, never a huge fantasy performer, but he's still a pretty good quarterback. He's been playing in the league for quite a while. And then Darius Slayton, who did have a very good week this past week. So your two receivers, we'll see if they can, perform this week. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Caleb's going to win this one if Galladay and Godwin can play.
Yeah, those are the two big question marks right there.
Yeah, I mean, not that it matters, but I have Galladay in my other league, so
Yeah.
I'm praying he plays. So I'm hoping for you, Caleb. And I think T.Y. Hilton is not going to do very well this year, because Philip Rivers has a noodle arm and can only throw to running backs. Good for you, though.
That's good for me, yeah. So, I mean, I'd hope for that too, I guess. But
Yeah.
I think I've got Lincoln winning this one. A lot of these matchups were close, so it's hard to pick a lock for most of them, and even an upset for most of them, because we're 1 week in, so we don't really know what teams are the great team.
It can't even be an upset,
Right. That's why.
Yeah.
That's kind of why it was tough to pick an upset. But yeah. So for this one, I've got Lincoln. So I think that'll just about do it for this episode. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope you do well this week and, this season. Not too well, obviously, because, I want to win. But,
I want to win.
well, yeah, but,
We'll see each other in championship.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that, thank you and thank you. I'll let you go first.
All right. We got Bruce first.
Almost.
And T-Corn. The corn stalk.
Yeah, and then I've got Michael. Oh, almost a bit of interference, but not this week.
We'll get him next week.